Hello everyone, welcome to today's deck profile. Today we'll be doing Laval's. This is a really fun fire-based deck that is kind of dependent on you throwing your entire deck into the graveyard before you get to start playing the game. Without further ado, let's go ahead and hop in. Remember to like and subscribe, and let me know what you'd like to see in the next video. Starting off with the real playmaker of the deck, 3 copies of Handmaiden. When it's sent to the grave, if you have another Laval in your grave, you can send another Laval. So normally you can cycle through all 3 Handmaidens and end up with 5 Lavals in your grave, assuming that you had something in there to begin with. So really great card, really. Plus it's a level 1 tuner, meaning that you can synchro climb with it when you get to a card like Rekindling. But yeah, fantastic card. Next up, 3 copies of Laval Archer. When it's normal summoned during the main phase this turn, you can normal summon again. If this is in your grave, you can destroy a fire-type monster you control to special this in defense position, but banish it when it leaves the field. It does lock you into fire synchro, but I'm playing a pure extra deck, so I don't really have to worry about that. Play 3 copy of Cannoneer. Up to twice per turn, discard a fire monster, inflict 500 to your opponent. Importantly, he has 200 defense, much like the previous 2 and the next monster, meaning that they are all targets for your Rekindling plays. I have 3 copies of Laval Lakeside Lady. If you have 3 more Lavals in grave with different name, you can banish this card and another Laval to destroy a set card your opponent controls. It's also a level 3 tuner with 200 defense, meaning that it is a great target for Rekindling. Next, we got 3 copies of Codal. Codal, if you have 3 more Lavals in your grave, you can special this from hand. It's a free level 2 tuner, which is really great in this deck. Another free monster on board is your Laval Burner. When you have 3 or more Lavals with different names in your grave, special list from hand. It's a level 5, meaning that you can get in some pretty high synchro summons with it. Next, we got Laval Cannon, one of the 3 normal summons in the deck, other than Archer. Everything else you kind of just want to keep in your deck until you can throw it to the grave. Cannon, when it's normally flip summon, you can special a banished Laval monster. So, really great if you've used your Birth of Prominence Flame, or your Lakeside Lady has already been used, meaning it's a free summon of a level 7 Synchro. And the last normal summon is Laval Blaster. This is kind of like Dante. When it's normal summoned, you can declare a number 1 to 5, mill that many cards, and then it gains 200 for each Laval milled. So it's just a horrible, horrible Dante. But a Dante nonetheless. That's it for the monsters. It is a fairly monster-heavy deck because you do want to have most of these in your graveyard. But with that said, let's move on to the spells. Got 3 copies of Molten Conduction Field. This is double Foolish Burial for Laval monsters. It sends 2 to the grave. Fantastic card. Next up, we have 3 copies of Birth of Prominence Flame. This allows you to banish 2 fire monsters, 1 tuner, 1 non-tuner with 200 defense, to then synchro summon a monster with that level. So it's pretty much a Necro Synchro with fire monsters that have 200 defense, which this deck has no issue putting in the grave. Finally, one of the best cards ever printed, Rekindling. Specials as many fire monsters as possible with 200 defense from your grave. With Handmaiden in there, along with your Cannoneer and Lakeside Lady, you can really synchro climb pretty quickly with 1 copy of Rekindling and 1 copy of your Molten Conduction Field. Finally, 1 copy of Rhoda. It searches your Laval Blaster. That's about it. It's a weird tech choice. If I could, I would remove it to play a copy of Foolish Burial. Because I don't really play it in this deck, because I don't really see a need for it, but you could play Foolish Burial instead. That is, that's kind of up to player preference. That's it for the spells. Moving on to the traps. 3 copies of Molten Whirlwind Wall. All Lavals are gaining 100 for each Laval in grave, so that can allow you to get a big number on board and start pushing for game. And 2 Dust Flame Blasts. Banish all Lavals from grave to destroy that many cards in the field, up to the number banished for this card's activation. With the amount of Lavals you get in your grave, this is usually a free board wipe. Especially if you have something like your Cannon in your hand, which will then allow you to special one and start synchro climbing again. that is it for the main deck. Moving on to the extra, we play 3 copies of Laval Dragon. Level 5 Fire Dragon. You can shuffle 2 Laval monsters from your grave into your main deck to return a card your opponent controls to the hand. It's pretty good. Usually it's used for synchro climbing and shuffling back your Laval Handmaidens so that you can keep using their effect from grave. 2 copies of Slasher. If you have 2 Lavals in grave, it can make a second attack if the first attack was on a defense position. And if you have 3 Lavals in grave, it can deal piercing damage. But otherwise, he is also just meant to synchro climb. We got 2 Dragoon, Laval Dragoon. Once per turn, add a Laval from your deck to your hand, and send a Laval from hand to grave. Once again, a great way to use that Handmaiden, adding it from deck to hand, and then immediately discarding it to get the effect. For one of our level 7s, I play 1 Stenin. He's not great, but he's a good way to climb into your X-Lord. Stenin's effect is that when it's synchro summon, you have to send a card from your hand to the grave, which, if you happen to have Handmaiden, once again, we'll just activate that Handmaiden. When a card would target this card with an effect, you can banish a Laval to negate and destroy. It can be useful, but he's rarely staying on the field. Instead, the level 7 you want to keep on your field is Laval Salamander. This is a level 7 Dragon Fire Synchro monster. When it's synchro summon, draw 2. Then if you have a fire in your hand, send 2 from your hand to the grave, including a fire monster. If you cannot discard a fire monster, you have to reveal your hand to your opponent and then shuffle it back into the deck. A little risky, but when you're playing a monster-heavy deck like this, you should be fine. Just make sure you keep that in mind when you do activate its effect. Second effect allows you to banish a fire monster to Book of Moon monsters your opponent controls, equal to the number of Lavals you control. There is a fun thing you can do with Salamander and Slasher to do piercing and attack twice. Especially if you have your Molten Conducting Wall out, you can do a lot of damage. The final Synchro monster, 3 copies of X-Lord. When your opponent activates the effect of a monster in their field or hand, quick effect, destroy the monster and inflict 1000 damage to your opponent. If this synchro summoned card is destroyed by an opponent's card, special 3 non-synchro monsters that are fire type with 200 defense from your grave and defense position, but negate their effects. So, once again, very important to have stuff like your Handmaiden, or your Archer, or Cannoneer just kind of hanging out in the graveyard, so that way you can get them in case your X-Lord gets destroyed. That's about it for the Laval deck list. Thank you all for watching. As always, let me know what deck you want to see in the future. I will see you in the next one.